The Tragedy of the Ancient Vow, Ibrahim and HasnaA. A Tale of Silent Consequences. Ibrahim recounts his story, saying, "The narrator of this tale is myself. My brother, Abdulazim, and I are twins. We have an uncle named Abdul Karim, who was blessed with 7 daughters. It was my uncle Abdul Karim's unwavering habit that whenever a woman in our extended family gave birth to a boy, he would declare to the parents, 'This child shall be wed to my daughter, so and so.' In this manner, he would reserve husbands for his daughters from the cradle. Thus, 2 of my uncle's daughters were reserved for my twin brother and me. This system of prearranged betrothals was a formidable and deeply rooted tradition within our family. I recall a specific moment from my childhood. I was sitting in the majlis, the formal assembly room, with my uncle alongside my brother Abdulazim. My uncle Abdul Karim looked at us and said, "I shall marry you to this daughter of mine, and I shall marry Abdulazim to my other daughter." At the time, we merely laughed at his words, offering no comment. However, my uncle Abdul Karim was a man of his word. He did not jest in such matters. Upon returning to his home, he would affirm his declarations to his wife, saying, "I have reserved such and so for my daughter, and another for the other," as a way of cementing his vow. Consequently, the news spread like wildfire throughout the entire family. It was understood that I would wed my cousin, and Abdulazim would wed the other. Between us and these 2 girls, there was barely a year's difference in age. My uncle was always hopeful that his wife would conceive each year, longing for a son so that his name might be carried forward, and people would say, "This is the son of Abdul Karim." The years rolled by until my brother and I completed our studies and secured employment. When we reached the age of 25, our father approached us and asked, "Has the time not come for you both to marry?" My brother Abdulazim replied, "Yes, I wish to marry." My father then said, "No, you and your brother Ibrahim shall wed on the very same day. What say you, Ibrahim?" I looked at him and answered, "Father, I do not wish to marry just yet." He countered, "And why not?" "We desire to celebrate the union of both you and your brother on a single day." Naturally, my father spoke with the assumption that we would be marrying our cousins, as had been promised since our youth. I repeated, "Father, I truly do not wish to marry now." He replied, "If your brother wishes to wed, we shall not wait for you. We will proceed with his marriage. As for you, Ibrahim, you may take your time, but remember, the girl is waiting for you," referring, of course, to my cousin. Thus, my brother Abdulazim married my cousin. We held a grand wedding celebration and rejoiced in his union. 3 more years passed, and I reached the age of 28. My uncle Abdul Karim began to question me, "Has the time not yet come for you to marry, Ibrahim?" I would vaguely reply, "God willing." In truth, I still had no desire for marriage. The years continued to slip away until I reached 30. By then, my cousin was 28, only 2 years younger than I, and she was the one my uncle intended for me. I eventually went to my sister and confided in her, "Sister, I have a friend, a man of noble character, chivalry, and generosity, and I wish to marry his sister." My sister grew incensed and shouted, "You are to marry your cousin, just as our uncle intended. Are you a fool?" I retorted, "I do not want to marry her. Please understand my heart and set aside the talk of the elders. I have no desire to wed my cousin." My sister desperately tried to sway my mind but failed. She warned me, "Your uncle and father will be heartbroken, and the entire family will be furious with you." I told her, "Enough of this talk. Go and propose to the girl on my behalf." After many attempts, my sister finally went to ask for the hand of my friend's sister. Since our mother had passed away, it was her role to handle the proposal. When I informed my father that I had proposed to my friend's sister, he was distraught. "How can this be? What shall we say to your uncle Abdul Karim? What you have done is not right, Ibrahim." My father was quite elderly, so I told him firmly, "If you do not support me in marrying the woman my sister has proposed to, then I shall never marry at all." Fearing that I would carry out my threat and remain a bachelor, and grieving at the thought of his brother's disappointment, he lamented, "What will we say to your uncle? He will be devastated." I suggested, "Father, invite my uncle over and tell him the truth, that Ibrahim does not wish to marry your daughter and will not heed my word. Be frank with him." 2 days later, my father told me, "I met your uncle and told him you refused to marry his daughter." He replied, "If he does not wish to marry her, he is free. Let him marry whichever woman he chooses." Despite this, I noticed that several members of the family looked upon me with anger and sorrow. I went ahead with my marriage, and a year later, my wife gave birth to our first child. My relatives began calling to offer their congratulations. Among the incoming calls was a number I did not recognize. I answered, and a woman's voice greeted me, "Ibrahim." I replied, "Yes, who is speaking?" She said, "It is I, HasnaA, your cousin." I felt a wave of intense embarrassment and fear, for HasnaA was the very girl my uncle had intended for me. I stammered, "Yes, what is it you want?" She said, "First, I wish to congratulate you on your newborn. I pray that God makes him a righteous son. Secondly, I have something I must say to you." I told her, "Yes, say what you wish." She insisted, "I will say what is on my mind, but do not interrupt me. When I am finished, I shall end the call." I agreed. "Please, go ahead." HasnaA began, "When I was a little girl and my father told you that you would marry me, I believed it. Your twin brother married when he was 25, yet you did not. I waited for you. You never told my father that you had no desire for me until the years had vanished, until you were 30 and I was 28. Why did you not tell my father you didn't want me when you were 20? All those years, suitors came seeking my hand in marriage. When they learned I was reserved for you, they would withdraw. My father turned them away, men who were better than you, Ibrahim, and, because of you, we rejected them. My father spread the word to every relative and neighbor that I was to be your wife, until the day came when suitors stopped coming altogether because they knew I was yours. Why did you not go to my father when you were 20 or 25? Why did you leave me suspended, tied to you? Even if I were to marry now, a bitter resentment will remain in my soul against you, against my father, and against yours. You are the one primarily responsible for the delay of my life. Since I was a child, I knew I was pledged to you, just as your brother took my sister. Why did you not speak from the beginning? Why did you leave me waiting to become your wife, building my entire future on a foundation of air?" I tried to respond, but she silenced me. "Be quiet, Ibrahim. Do not speak. I told you at the start, only listen." She poured out all the anger and grief held within her heart, and then she hung up in my face. A year has passed since that phone call, yet not a day goes by without her words haunting my mind. I feel a crushing weight of sadness and confusion. My cousin is now 29 and remains unmarried. Even in my happiest moments, the memory of HasnaA's voice strips away my joy. I am lost, and I truly do not know what I can do for her now. The errors committed. The error of the elders, the uncle and father restricting the freedom of children with binding future promises turns marriage from a bond of affection and mercy into a heavy, suffocating, familial debt. The error of Ibrahim, the stronger party in the social contract. His silence for 15 years, from age 15 to 30, acted as a form of implicit consent. He failed to realize that the social clock for a man differs drastically from that of a woman in a traditional society. The damage inflicted on HasnaA, the loss of her prime years, from 18 to 28, while being suspended by a man who did not want her, leading to the rejection of worthy suitors based on an illusion. Lessons and insights. The necessity of early candor. Ibrahim should have declared his refusal by the age of 20 to allow his cousin the opportunity to build her life with someone else. The abolition of reservation customs. Marriage is a deeply personal decision that must be built on mutual consent and desire upon reaching maturity, not on the ancient promises of elders in a gathering hall. Moral responsibility. A man is held accountable for his words and his silence, especially when it has the power to stall the life and future of a woman. If you enjoyed the story, support us by liking and subscribing to the channel to see more.